Julian, you want to intro us?
Yes. So I'm gonna jump on and say it looks like we got a few people jumping in here. I just wanted to say, what's going on, guys? It's Julian and Tim here from Advanced Agent Marketing, and we've got Andrew Jimenez, $40,000 a month agency owner who's absolutely murdering the game at 28 years old. He's over here at Symmetry Financial Group, right out of Arizona with us. I think you're in Tempe. Is that correct?
Yeah, Tempe area.
Out here in freaking Tempe area. College dropout, killing the game. What's going on, Andrew? How you doing today, man?
Honestly, man, today's been pretty dang solid. I got zero complaints. Got to shoot out to the golf course a little bit earlier today, just kind of clear the head. And then ever since, just been absolutely hammering it down with the agency and agents, and got zero complaints. We're on track, I think, right now for like 100K week. So it's going to look pretty solid.
That's good. That's good.
It's not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all.
That's not bad by any means. Well, if you guys are watching, just drop in the comments where you guys are tuning in from. I know we got 6 people on. I know we just sent an email out, so we should have some more people jumping on here shortly. But yeah, I mean, we brought Andrew on here. Dude went from making, you said $1,500 a month. So we should have some more people jumping on here.
Yeah, I went from making $1,500 a month to then making that was stock and box in a warehouse at the time, to then now making over $40,000 a month very consistently.
Got it. And so for people that don't know you, like, how did you get your start in the industry? And then, obviously we'll jump into the whole journey of how you went from stocking boxes to stocking agents.
Well, hey, now I'm just kind of in the game of just helping my people get whatever they want. So it's a lot less about me at this point. So how I got started in the game. So I actually came from, like I said, stock and box in the warehouse. I was actually making about $1,500 a month. But I was just at a point in my life where I had read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I really wanted to start getting into kind of the whole spectrum of entrepreneurship and what that could look like and what I could be. And the longer I was in school, the more I just realized, man, that's not really going to get me where I wanted. And so I just decided to leave. Now, that also turned Tim into the best and worst decision I could have possibly made, because I was on a full ride to the U of A. And because it was from a grant from the U.S. government, they said, hey, if you're not going to go to school, we need to give that money to another kid. So I went from having $1,500 a month to then I went and had $600 in student loans, $600 in rent, and $100 and something left over for food, gas, electricity, you name it. I would actually walk 1.5 miles down to the grocery store, and I would actually shop at the dollar store. So I could get a loaf of bread, jar of jelly, jar of peanut butter. It was like $7 something. And then every 2 weeks, I would actually go to Taco Bell that was across the street, and that was like my cheat meal for $11.42 for 2 steak quesadillas. And that was for about 8 months until I came across Symmetry and insurance.
So you said, I want to kind of rewind there, because you said you had a full ride. And then when you left college, they said you owed all of the money that they had given you towards the scholarship?
Yep, the $12,000 that they had given me towards it was a grant. And so it was just kind of a clause, like I had to actually attend the school. But since I was no longer attending and I had dropped out, basically I had to pay every dollar back.
That is insane. I never knew that that's how that worked. Like if you don't keep going to school, they take the money and you owe it.
You and me both. I didn't know how that it worked like that either. And it was not a fun experience.
So you found the insurance industry, obviously, like during the time when you were eating PBJs and Taco Bell for, cheat meal, what, were you just hopeless? Or were you working towards an opportunity? What was on the horizon, or was it just all doom and gloom?
I mean, not quite. I mean, there were other things that kind of played into that, being super young. And, I'm Dominican and American. So my family's from New York City. Dad was the firstborn on, stateside. Him and I clashed heavily. when I
Okay.
decided I was going to drop out of college, let alone go into something like insurance. Hell, man, I remember one day I'm just stocking boxes, and I ended up getting a call from my dad, and he's like, Drew, I need you to come home right now. And I was like, okay, but I'm working right now. And he's like, that's okay, call off. So I went over to my boss, Julian, and said, hey, I'm going to call off, and started driving home. And about halfway there, all of a sudden I got that kind of like knot in my stomach, like kind of the knot where like your stomach flips upside down, kind of lose all your appetite. You can start to feel kind of the anxiety build up here.
Yep.
And I realized at that moment that my dad had really like figured out I dropped out of school.
Oh, he didn't know up until that point.
He did not know for a good solid about 3 months. And then at that point, I think he got the drift that Andrew wasn't going no longer.
Yeah.
And so I ended up coming in the house, and he's just like, Drew, sit down. And he's like, it basically just goes, you dropped out of school, didn't you? I said, yeah. He said, great, you're going to go back. I said, no, I'm okay. Like, I have these ideas. He said, Drew, you're going to go back. And I said, no, Dad, like I have an idea of what. He said, no, Drew, you're going to go back. And I was like, look. And he said, I'll pay for it. I said, look, but the government was paying for it. I don't need you to pay for it. And it was at that moment, he just basically said, get out.
Oh, so you were still living with your parents, and they had no idea you had left.
Yeah. And so I remember walking out the door, and I didn't have time to stay by my little brother, my stepmom. And I remember just going out the door, and the minute I crossed the garage door, I just see it, boom, slam in my face. And at that moment, I walked to my car, got in my car, drove to the nearest park. And honestly, I just started bawling my eyes out. Like what hurt the most wasn't the fact that like I was going to have to figure it out. Wasn't the fact that, that I had put myself in that position. It was more so the fact that like my parents didn't believe in me as much as I believed in myself. So at that moment, I could have said the doom and gloom, turn around, gone home, apologized, been wherever I would have been then. Or I could have said, all right, if I'm going to make a big boy decision like this, I'm going to figure it out. And so that's what I did. You mentioned doom and gloom. No, I had a lot of time in that warehouse to just put some earphones in, and I would listen to like Jim Rohn, Les Brown, also Tony Robbins, whatever I could download for free and listen into. That's what I was listening into and just constantly getting in my mind. But it wasn't until about 8 months of that until I actually couldn't even live on my own anymore. And I had to move back up to Phoenix and moved in with grandma. And then I started insurance.
Wow. Okay. That's really like, I didn't even know that. I know. And to talk about the golfing earlier, he left out that I was out there spanking the course with him.
Yeah, you were, buddy.
Yeah, we made it look good, man. But I'm just gonna tell people we're good at golf, so
yeah, we're not.
Hopefully they'll believe it. Yeah,
we're getting better though, and that's in the important piece. It's a process.
Getting better. Yeah, exactly. I know you talked kind of a little bit about before insurance. Let's look at first year in insurance, because like that's I mean, it's not like you came up easy getting to where you're at. Like you've obviously worked where you are, but kind of I want to dissect the process a little bit, because there's a lot of people that come from either similar backgrounds where they just had to make it for themselves, make it from nothing, et cetera, et cetera. But what was that first year of business like for you as an agent before you became who you are today?
Dude, I mean, well, for me, my first month, everything like first 6 months would probably have looked pretty good. My first month was absolutely atrocious. Like I thought I was a charismatic guy. I thought I could talk my way through things. I mean, I'll just quickly run through with you guys my first month in the field. Basically, I got into this thing coming from stocking boxes. First thing I get going, Tim, is I help out mom, grandma, stepmom, make myself about $1,500, and I used all that money to actually buy leads, put $1,000 towards leads and $500 towards the conference they kept telling me that I needed to go to. And so fast forward, Ended up getting my leads, getting going, and my first appointment that my first 3 appointments I ended up booking. I thought I was doing great. I made 180 something dials, spoke to 40 something people, which the leads I was working, I should have been converting way higher. And I ended up showing up to my first client's home, and I showed up to the wrong home.
Yeah.
So
Hey, hold on 1 second, Andrew. Tim, can you mute real quick? It sounds like a free. I don't even know if it's a party or what's going on, but to recap for everyone.
They got some reggaeton going on in the WeWork, bro. I don't know what's going on.
Oh my gosh.
But I'll throw it on mute.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So you said you had written your grandma, you went and bought some leads, you had made dials, you were calling the leads, and then you showed up to your first appointment. This was face to face.
Face to face at the time, way back when. And my first appointment, I ended up showing up to my 8 p.m.'s house instead of 6 p.m. and pulled the biggest rookie move of rookie moves. So I'm calling the client. No one's home. He says, son, I'm standing outside. There's nobody here. I look down at my lead and I'm at the wrong house. So I get back in my car, drive fully across, rush hour traffic in Phoenix, Arizona, to basically for him to say in my face, but you better get your schedule under control, son. Otherwise, no one's going to do business with you. And then close the door on me. Then I went to 8 p.m. Still nobody. Went to my Tuesday at 8. No, he said, oh yeah, that insurance thing, mortgage protection. He's like, oh yeah. So thanks, but no thanks. Somebody already came over the weekend. So I spent $250 on leads, totally fried them. And then now I'm sitting in here and I'm like, man, I'm getting on this flight to go to conference. Like something's got to give. And I would say the biggest thing that hit home for me then was I went to conference and they just basically said this, Julian, like this is a business of metrics. Like you can't control people not picking up the phone, not being there, not showing up, not buying from you, talking to their brother, sister, mother, father, whatever it may be. But the one thing you can control is you picking up the phone one more time to book one more appointment, to see one more family and go help one more family from there. And so I said, okay, if that's all it is, I'm in. So over the next 3 weeks, I proceeded to make total of about 2,000 dials, spoke to an asinine amount of people. It took me 27 days to make my first sale. But the minute I did and I sold to Miss Davina, the next month, my first month, I made about $1,500. The next month, though, I made $6,000. The month after that, $8,000. The month after that, $13,000. And after that point, for my grandma for putting up with me that entire time, I said, Grandma, we're going to Mexico. And we booked an all-inclusive out in Riviera Maya for July.
That's freaking awesome, dude. And so I love seeing this because so many people will not do that one extra dial, that one extra door, that one extra conversation. And that was kind of like my mantra. So for me, I was basically running away from waiting tables. I don't have a college degree. I was like, dude, what's my backup? You know what I mean? I'm going to go wait tables? Hell no. So same thing, just one extra dial, one extra door, one extra, whatever it took. And it really is a game of metrics. And I think the more that we can kind of broadcast that to agents, the more that there's going to be success in this business, because most people aren't making those dials or doing those doors or whatever. And so it's just, and a lot of it's just misinformation. So there was a little bit of a ramp up there. The rest of your year, was that consistent in the first year after Mexico? Did you come back and like, were you on pace, or like after Mexico, the party followed you home, or how did that go?
No, I mean, yeah, I would say that anytime that you're brand new, do not take a vacation inside of your first 6 months. Like you basically get all this momentum and then you basically realize I need to work harder than I did before I left to put myself back into the mentality and momentum that I had. So I had lagged for about like a week and a half, 2 weeks, but I quickly realized I just had to work a bit harder. No, my first year, man, I made about like 80 to 90 grand, and it was exactly what I needed. I paid off all my student loans, paid off $12,000 student loans, 18 grand worth of total debt. I had bought a new car because my car that I was driving at the time was a 2002 Ford Escape with no Bluetooth, no air conditioning. I actually only owned 3 button-ups. And so a funny story, driving to appointments one time, I would button up my shirt and hang it like on the hanger thing behind the headrest.
Yeah.
And I forgot to button it one time. All the windows rolled down because my car had no air conditioning. got on the highway, and then boom, my shirt zipped out the door. And I was like, now I'm down to 2 button ups versus 3. And I'm like, well, that's that. So no, I had to buy myself a new little car at the time. But I was on pace for what I needed. But even though my first year, I would say I had success in terms of what I was looking for at that moment, it was nowhere near what I really knew I was going to be capable of achieving. And in my head, I really didn't feel like I did that much. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So did you see like, because I want to dissect that a little bit more, because it's easy to face rejection every day and then think to yourself, well, everybody's telling me no, like I don't know if this is for me, or maybe even worse, it's like, okay, well, maybe I am just going to be stuck in insert your position that maybe you started out at because you're getting experience, right? And I know you train a ton of agents, so I'm sure you answer this question or give mentorship on this constantly. But like for you, after like kind of seeing that first year of success, but not reaching your full potential, what was the mindset shift? Like, what was that little switch that flipped in your mind that let you know, hey, you're actually capable of way more? Was it a mentor? Was it a sale? Like, what was it for you?
Yeah, it was a conversation with my mentor, Jacob Pogue, and I absolutely love that man tremendously. I remember getting a call from him on basically around my birthday at the time. We had our next conference. I was going to my 3rd conference at this time with basically one person going there with me. And I'm a year into the business. I've never written $10,000 in a single week. Haven't really achieved agency ownership. I don't have a T person on my team. Like I'm going to this basically being a 0, right? And I remember getting on the phone with him and he said, Andrew, hey man, great year last year. You probably got accomplished what you wanted to get accomplished. And, in his very nice way of about telling me about things, he basically just said this. He's like, buddy, I love you. And I wish I could celebrate you publicly, but you haven't done enough for me to even put you on stage or give you an award. And he's like, and you have such a good story to tell, and a lot of people need to hear it, but you're going to have to work harder if you want that type of story to be told, and it deserves to be. And that was kind of like that moment in conversation that I think I really needed to say, okay, it's time to like, do what you got to do or get off the pot, right?
Yeah.
And so fast forward over the next 3 weeks to that next conference, I had my first ever 10K week. Came into that, saw at conference, saw a bunch of people hitting like this future achiever, agency ownership. They said telling stories. And then some kid walked across at 20 something years old, my buddy Grant. And he goes, yeah, I'm going to be the youngest agency owner. And I looked over at my buddy Jamie at the time. I said, this is the last time it's either just you and me at a conference alone. And I said, we're just going to go build this thing and make it big. And in 6 months, we went from just me and him to 15 agents doing over $100,000 in sales and broke out as the youngest agency owner in the company.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. So you started off first year, a little bit of a struggle. You had that conversation, switch flipped, which by the way, like, I think it's important to realize like how much that probably changed the trajectory of your career. Having a mentor. And I see so many people here in the business that are like, they're having like either no leadership, right? Or they have the leadership where it's like completely overcorrected to the point where they're like giving them free leads and taking all their commission, or they own their book of business or some madness like this. Jeez. And it's crazy. We came from that model, and there's models like that out here today still that people advertise. It's madness, but it's interesting because not only do you own equity in your business, you went from literally like rags to riches, basically, right? You were stocking boxes, you're building the business, but you got that 100K in production. I want to talk a little bit more, and then I want to open it up. I'm sure we're going to have a few questions, but I want to know a little bit more about what happened after that. You guys were on pace. You said doing 100K a month or a week?
100K a month.
A month. Okay. So 100K a month, $1.2 million agency, right? Give or take, you know what I mean? So what happened from there? what was the catalyst? Is it just you, like you're just a freaking workhorse and like nobody else is recruiting, you're just doing everything? Are you recruiting leaders and you guys are doing it together? What does
No,
it look like? Break it down for us.
honestly, it was a lot of developing ourselves, right? Like, when I first came into this thing, I wasn't necessarily the type that hired all these fantastic, crazy big producers. It took me, honestly, I think 3 years in the business, 2, 3 years before I hired my first like person that did over $40,000 a month.
Yeah.
And so I just started to work really hard on myself. And I think that's super underrated, Julian, is a lot of people just want to go like, oh, let me just go hire a bunch of people, or let me go find this massive producer from this other company that's going to change my business. And I'm going to say, you just got to go work on yourself. Right? You make yourself a better leader, make yourself more attractive. You learn to lead one person, all of a sudden you can lead 2, then 5, then 10, then 20, and at this point now where we got 60 writing agents any given month, 20 brand new agents, I think, coming on this month, because you just become a better agent. You become a better agent.
Damn. So that's, I mean, super impressive. A lot of these things agents are trying to achieve. Guys, I know we've got viewers on YouTube and Facebook. If you guys want to drop a comment in the chat, we'll do a Q&A here in the last few minutes. Go ahead and drop your comments, questions down below for Andrew. And we'll see if we can't get to them all. So
Andrew, I got a question for you. What, like, because obviously going from being a personal producer is entirely different than running an agency. What do you think was the biggest adjustment you had to make from writing business to teaching other people to write business?
So I think that there's a lot of similarities, but I will say that the biggest adjustment I think everyone's got to make is, how do I commit enough time to building while also producing and trying to make an income?
Right.
And very simply, at least all the people that I've coached, like here's a very, very basic example that I use, is I've got 20 something builders. And so my definition of a builder is this: it's someone who is actively hiring, and they have at least one other writer in the month, including them. So there's 2 writers on that team, right? So I got 20 something of those guys. And in order to help them be more effective, what you've got to really understand is you need to prioritize your production, and then you need to schedule and calendar in your recruiting. But at the beginning, it can't be a 50-50 split. It just doesn't work. You got to be 80% production, 20% recruiting, and then slowly increase that recruiting up, and then get to a point where, you've got so much recruiting going on, you need to hire out things. I mean, I recommend getting an onboarding manager, hiring a recruiter to fill your calendar with interviews. So that way you can keep doing what you do best, because you are the best recruiter, producer, agent, coach, all of it.
Got it. And then I'm curious, like, are you guys all mortgage protection, all term, or what are you guys doing?
We do mortgage protection, final expense, a lot of advanced markets over here. We just increased our advanced markets from, I think, maybe like 10% to almost like 30% of our production now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a pretty big jump. What was that transition like? Like, where did 30% come from? It's the same leads, cross-selling? What happened?
Yeah, it's going to be cross-selling with Symmetry and Quality over here. They're just really good at creating what I would say subject matter experts or specialists within our agencies. That guys that really want to kind of go down that path and that's what they want to do, they come on board here. We can teach them and show them what they got to do to have guys like me, where I was never really great at it, but I'm really good at opening doors for mortgage protection, final expense. And then I'm going to introduce them to this guy. He's going to sell, and I get a 40% cut. And it just started to take off. We've got a whole department now at corporate that handles all that stuff. And we're honestly trying to scale it up even higher.
That's awesome. Tim, I think you had a question for...
Yeah, I'm curious, because like when you talk about having button-ups, you don't have button-ups for telesales. Are you guys doing telesales now, or are you still like primarily face-to-face?
Yeah, 100% telesales at this point. I would say corporate-wide, 70%, like 70-75% phone sales, maybe like 15% Zoom, and then like
Mhm.
whatever left over actually is in the home. Very, very few agents, I would say, go in the home at this point, though, unless they just care to.
Yeah.
So what was the transition like for you going from all, I'm assuming in-home, face-to-face, to switching over to telesales?
It was scary. I mean, we went from that to all of a sudden COVID hits and we don't have a telesales script. We had our presentation at home, and I
Right.
saw corporate on a drop of a dime fly in some of the biggest producers that we had and agency leaders, and they put together the itty bitty COVID committee, and we had a fully functioning virtual system inside of 2 months. And
Really?
it was a matter of rolling with a lot of punches, trying to figure out the scripts, figure out what worked. But man, we made it work, and our company has grown by significantly since. It's the best thing that happened to us, to be honest.
Yeah, you like accidentally stumbled upon gold.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see we got a question here. This one says, "Do you have a LinkedIn?" I'm assuming you do
Yeah,
if you're doing a lot of recruiting.
yeah. Andrew Jimenez. Honestly, don't know the LinkedIn like tag thing, but just Andrew Jimenez. Guess I could look it up for a second.
While you're doing that, I'm curious because like obviously you said how many agents did you onboard last month? You said like 20 or something?
No, this month we'll have 20 new writing agents. So they wrote their first
20 new
policy.
writing agents.
Last month, I think we had about 13.
Okay. What's your source for finding people? Are you guys just like DMing people on LinkedIn, or how do you guys find agents to bring on?
Yeah, all over. I don't know how to find that thing on LinkedIn. Any which way, it's just Andrew Jimenez, and you can search it up from there. Tempe, Arizona. Um, Honestly, it's LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Craigslist. We run Facebook ads, TikTok ads, anything to really just drive traffic to us. I've always promoted since I started building the thing is you need to have a big funnel and then let your system sort for you. If you try to pick and choose and nitpick all these best people, I promise you, you're going to have a really tough time building an agency. Let your system sort for you. And if you don't have a system, well, go find a company that has one. You'll more effectively build an agency.
Got it. When you say like letting your system sort for you, what does that actually look like?
Means this is like, Tim, I can't control you not being able to manage your own schedule.
Right.
Like Julian, I can't control Julian having to go fly somewhere to take care of his sick grandmother, right? And so even though those are natural things that happen, your system has to allow those people to be successful even when those things happen. And if the person can't honestly discipline themselves or manage themselves effectively to be successful, then that's when you let the system sort. But if your system can't allow people to have an opportunity to go take care of their sick grandmother or, mess up a couple times because they got a little bit distracted and they need to fine tune their schedule, then I
Right.
think that you got to find a better system that allows that so that people can excel.
So it's almost like sounds like a blend of having a good system, but then also just like survival of the fittest, just letting people sort themselves out almost. Like the people that aren't
Almost.
going to make it aren't going to make it, and then the people that can make it within the system are the ones that come through.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, here's my personal belief. I believe that I will never tell anybody that they can't achieve something, especially if they believe they can. Right. And even like me, stock and box and warehouse, 21 years old, didn't have Jack Diddley for life sales insurance experience. I was not somebody that probably would have been at the top of the board or first draft pick.
Right.
But what I did have was hard work. And what I also had was distractions. What I also had was to fight through all the little things that helped me get to where I needed to be. Like, heck, I didn't go to make $40,000 a month overnight. It took me 6 years to do that. But insurance is a legitimate 6-year plan. So it's not necessarily survival of the fittest as much as it is just survival of the most disciplined. Figure out a way to do that, and you can be successful in this industry.
Got
That's
it.
fine.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I guess in a way that is survival of the fittest. Not necessarily like most talented. It's just the people that are willing to put in the effort and the work.
Yeah, and be disciplined. That's it.
Yeah. 100%.
That's really good. And I agree with that too. It's like, for example, with what we've done with our company and everything, it's like we're not like, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, hey, I'm the best XYZ whatever. It's just consistency and discipline over time, and improvement, like you said, self-improvement. It just yields results. You know what I mean? It just does. It really is not that hard. It's just consistency. If you run long enough, you're going to get to the destination. I was curious. I had a question for the hiring process, because we don't do a ton of stuff on here about agencies. That's why I think this is a great talk for us. But one of the things that I'm curious about is like, how do you like discern whether or not you're going to hire people? Because you said you're never going to tell somebody that they can't have an opportunity. Is there a hiring process to work with you? Do I need to be a $500,000 a year producer? Is it do I have to have sold previously? Like, how do I get into working with Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, before people go like, oh, does he throw spaghetti at the wall and see who sticks? No. Yeah. It's like I have a process, and I got simple questions that I ask people, basically like whenever I'm looking to hire somebody, all I'm trying to figure out is what do they want and how does my company allow them to get what they want? Because I'll give you two very basic examples. I've got somebody who's working as a nurse, works 4/10s, has all the weekends off, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? But she's a single mom and makes good money, but she's tired and sick and tired of her job. She can't wait to leave. She's like done with it. The medical system, done. But here's what it comes down to. My question to her would be like, what do you want? I want to be able to leave my job. My next question would be like, how do you expect to do your job here with Symmetry or like in insurance, but you're working 4/10s, you're dead tired, you got 2 kids at home, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and maybe she's telling me how like she barely finds time to have her own time. At that point, to me, that candidate, although on paper might sound great to hire, to give them a life-changing experience, I need her to tell me how bad she wants to get out of her current position to not currently experiencing what she is. And she may say, look, I don't have the answer for you, but I'm going to figure it out because I hate where I'm at. I will hire that person and I'll help them figure it out along the way. Or if she says, I couldn't answer that because I just don't know how I'm going to do it. Great. Let me know when you do figure that out.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So there's not, it's more so like you're going to take neophytes, you're going to take agents through a season. It's more so really figuring out whether or not they're serious about doing this and whether or not they're a solution seeker. Sounds like.
So the same thing with like currently licensed agents, right? They may be looking for the higher commission rate. They may be looking for support. They may be looking for leads. I don't know, but whatever it is, I'm telling you, all that stuff to me is pretty surface level. I want to know what is it that those things are going to give you in the end that you're so desperately trying to find. Let me know that, and I'm going to figure out how I can help you get it. And if I can, I'll let you know. If I can, I'm going to let you know.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's
it's the people with momentum and like, it doesn't really matter where they're starting as long as they have the momentum and like they're willing to push. Like we've had people that have like come to us. There was this guy we interviewed. One of the people went through our program, wrote $3,000 his first month, part-time, still in college and working another job. Next month wrote $25K. And that was literally just from like calling age leads and just getting the freaking reps in. But it's all about like, it doesn't matter where you start. It matters how fast you're moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good. Well, Tim, do you have any other questions? It looks like we didn't get too many questions here. I know the email was a little bit late. Sorry about that, guys. No, it's not a recording. And Tim,
it will be on YouTube.
Yeah, it will be on YouTube. Tim, do you have any other questions for Andrew before I close this out here? I want to make sure I can respect everyone's time.
Yeah, I mean, like, one thing for anyone that's watching this that maybe they're a newer agent or maybe they've been an agent for a while and they're like looking at you and they're saying, hey, this guy built a pretty sizable agency in only 6 years. What would your biggest piece of advice be to that person that maybe wants to replicate what you're doing? How would you recommend them to go about starting an agency?
How would I recommend? Well, I've got 6 simple things. I've been able to build a base shop, and a base shop in our world means this is that out of the other agency owners that you have or managers, it's your direct reports. Okay. So I've been able to build a base shop at this point twice to 100 grand after developing territory managers. And to be honest, it's these 6 simple things that help me do that the entire time. And so the first one is, did I lead by example today? Were you the best agent, the best coach, the person that you wanted to lead people through that you want all your agents to replicate? Number 2 is, who did I equip today? John Maxwell's podcast, 4 Ways to Equipping People, one of the best I've heard in terms of how to develop leadership within your agency. And you need to do that because you can't be the solution for everyone. Number 3, who did I hire? And then who is my new writer? Okay. It's not just about pumping in contracts. It's not just about hiring massive amounts of people. It's who's your next golden child that you can have on that can be that example outside of you. Number 4, a greater focus on activity. You got to make money. Sit down with at least 10 families every single week, and I guarantee you're going to make a ton of sales. Number 5, how did I grow today? Meaning, like, who did you associate with in this industry that makes more money than you? Start talking to those guys consistently. Don't just, commiserate with the people right around you, your peers. Like, you need to get into this brain better things. And number 6, which is my most important piece, who did you praise publicly today? Who did you celebrate on your Slack crew, group meet string, wherever? Who did you send an award to? Who did you recognize for their hard work? That's how you build an agency. Trust me.
Dude, that was sounds like you put a lot of thought into that. You had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was fire, dude.
I had to audit my system back in December of like, what do I do and what do I want to see out of my agents? And it's the reason we have 5 managers. We've got 20 something builders. It's like, we've got a lot of people that are developing agencies. I wouldn't be surprised if we start running, we're doing about 300 grand of sales per month right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we start doing 400, 500 here soon.
That's amazing. I see we have one more question that came in, then I think we'll cut it off. Sebastian says, missed the beginning part of the video. What's the biggest mistake you've had in the industry? And what would be something you would have done quicker in your career instead of putting it off? So biggest mistake in the industry, and then what is something you wish you would have done earlier?
Redlining my business, hands down, probably has delayed the most amount of success that I could have had in this industry. I think there comes a point in time where you get kind of comfortable with whatever income you're making, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20,000 bucks. And when you want to scale your business, you still stay at that amount and you try to just like kind of budget off. I got $500 for recruiting Julian, or I've got $200 for recruiting Tim. And I would say is, don't redline your business. Just spend the money necessary to grow and then go produce more to make more. And then in order to get back time, hire people out to fill the slots so you can continue to make more money.
When you say redlining, what do you mean? Just like basically like kind of being cheap with things and playing it safe?
You're making 15 grand. You got $5,000 to $7,000 in expenses. So you've got another $7,000 to spend on your business. You spend $2,000 for recruiting, and you got this extra $4 grand that you really don't want to spend, but you're ineffectively spending at the same time. And you're just like, you're not just going and producing more to give yourself an extra $12,000 a month to play around with. You just keep trying to nickel and dime this $4,000 and see what works.
Playing defense, not offense.
Yeah. Just go make more money.
That's fire, dude. That's fire. And then you said the thing you would have done quicker was hiring people out.
I would have not redlined my business, so I could have made 2 very strategic hires now. An onboarding manager, someone that's going to help you take somebody from directly hired all the way through your training process to where you actually can help them be successful and in the field. That was probably the most strategic hire, and a contracting specialist. Having somebody that's going to do all the contracting for you, knows the process, can handle all that, and then you get to just focus again, working with agents and selling policies. Those 2
That's
hires.
fire. Dude, I'm just thinking back, like the amount of agencies that we've had to be onboarded to, that if they would have had like a contracting specialist,
Yeah.
oh my God, dude, I would have like, I would have gained years back onto my life of
Yep.
stress.
It's a
It's a
brutal,
nightmare.
experience.
Every time, every single time, it's brutal. I'm sure everyone watching this can relate. Well, cool. Appreciate you hopping on here, brother. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate your time, and I think anyone that's watching this with two brain cells to rub together definitely got a ton of value from it. And so, yeah, awesome, man. Well, appreciate everyone for hopping on. Andrew, appreciate your time, and yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Before we
Appreciate
check out here, Tim, I want to give if somebody wants to get in touch with Andrew, just to learn
I forgot
more
that.
about what you got going on, and maybe just to even ask you a couple questions. I know you're a good guy. We were playing golf earlier this morning, and you know we've been known each other for a while here. So how would I get in touch with you though? Where would I find your contact information other than the LinkedIn missing handle?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. Yeah, exactly. Right. Just hit me up on Instagram. I think that's honestly the easiest point. Andrew J LTD, Andrew J LTD, and then we can just chat from there and go from that point. I think that's the simplest.
Cool. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions for this guy, he's a wealth of knowledge. We were hanging out earlier, but been getting a lot of value from him. He's got big aspirations, and this is one of the guys that you're going to want in your corner in this industry, guys. So I see that 2 claps and a Ric Flair for Jimenez. I don't know what that means, but it sounds good.
Love it.
Yeah. So cool. Andrew, thank you for joining us here today. Appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing the wisdom with us. And I look forward to getting to know you better and everything, man. So thanks, everybody. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you in the next one.
Later, guys.
Yeah.